Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu, and I'm back with another episode of Spoiler Sundays. So this is the time of the week where I take a look at all of the spoilers and, well, talk about them. So we're finally getting some spoilers shown up from EX03 Draconic Roar, and this looks like it's going to be a smaller set, just like all of the other EX sets, and that's okay because it's just meant to be a supplementary product to help a couple of decks move along. And as of right now, we do have a couple of spoilers to go over that kind of show and incentivize this. So first up, starting with a brand new version of Cybergerman. So obviously Cybergerman is going to want to play around with the justimon stuff, but it could also be played around with machinedramon as well because it is a level 5 black cyborg. But it's going to be a really good generic support card for either of those decks, and just a generically good black card just because, well, it has a nice generic inheritable ability where during all turns, which is really important, so that way the buff persists not only through your turn but the opponent's turn as well, where if you have a suspended tamer in play, then this Digimon gets plus 2000 DP, and we know that Justimon obviously wants to interact with tamers, and we do have some good solid tamers that Machinedramon can take advantage of as well to make the most out of this ability. And speaking of Machinedramon support, next we have a brand new version of Chaostroman. So this brand new version of Chaostroman is kind of what the old Chaostroman should have been, but regardless, we're getting him now just to kind of help move the Machinedramon deck along forward, and the Machinedramon deck has been getting some solid support. So what this card is doing is it's a level 6 red and black Digimon. That's always nice, could Digivolve for 4 off of red and black, and it has 12,000 DP, so your average level 6 stats. But it has the alternative evolution ability where you could Digivolve it for 1 on top of a Machinedramon, so it just allows you to utilize your Machinedramons, and he has a nice on-play and when Digivolving ability to be able to place up to 3 red and or black level 5 cards with Cyborg in their traits with different card numbers from your hand or trash underneath this card to the bottom of his Digivolution source to be able to de-Digivolve 1 on one of the opponent's Digimon for each card placed this way. So he's just filling up his inheritable sources, which is what that deck wants to do anyway, and he's adding some extra control to try to de-Digivolve the opponent's Digimon just to be a little bit more annoying. Then he shares a very similar ability to the Classic Collection version of Machinedramon, which is the preferred Machinedramon of choice, where during all turns, when this Digimon would be deleted or returned to the hand or deck, then you get to trash 2 level 5 cards from his Digivolution source to prevent him from leaving play. So it's just going to make him a very sticky body to want to utilize. So I think this is going to basically replace the old Chaostroman in the Machinedramon deck and be a very nice inclusion. And that deck's getting even more support in the form of a new option, which is going to be Hyper Infinity Cannon. So Hyper Infinity Cannon is going to be a 2-colored option, red and black, that costs 6 to play. But if you have a level 6 Digimon with Machine in its traits in play, then you get to use this regardless of its color, making it just a very easy card for that deck to use. And then its main ability states that we get a de-Digivolve 3 on one of the opponent's Digimon, which is very similar to the old Infinity Cannon, and on top of that, you then get to place 1 card with Cyborg in its traits from your hand underneath one of your level 6 Digimon with Machine in its traits, to the bottom of their Digivolution source to be able to delete one of the opponent's Digimon that's 6,000 DP or less. So it's just a better version of Infinity Cannon that we saw all the way back in BTO2, with its security ability activating its main, so it's just a good removal tool for that deck to adopt. Next, we got a new version of Azulongmon. So this new Azulongmon is a pretty interesting Digimon. Stat-wise, he's doing the same thing as most of your other level 6s, except he's in blue this time. And on top of that, he has 2 very nice abilities. One is an on-play ability where we get to draw 2 cards. Then, if this Digimon was placed by the effect of Trials of the 4 Great Dragons, we get to gain 2 memory, making him a little bit cheaper to use, or just gain some extra tempo, depending on what Trials of the 4 Great Dragons actually does. Then he has an on-delete ability where if we don't have a Trials of the 4 Great Dragons in play, then we get to place one of that card from our hand to the battle area. So it seems like that's going to be another delay card to utilize its delay ability, not necessarily to gain some memory, but to do something else to help make sure that we could play our 4 Great Dragons, which is kind of looking to shape up to be a Mega Zoo type deck based on this card alone having an on-play ability. And then to go along with the fact that we have a new Azulong, we have a new option for him to play around with. Well, I don't know if he's necessarily going to be playing around with, but the other Azulongs kind of want to use this, and this is a good card for those blue source stripping decks. Sorai is the name of the option, and it's a 4-costed blue option card with the main ability to trash the top 4 Digivolution sources on one of the opponent's Digimon. Then all of the opponent's Digimon with no Digivolution sources can't attack until the end of the opponent's next turn. So it's just a good card to just try to help mass strip one of the opponent's Digimon down and stop a lot of their aggression. Then on top of that, it has the security ability of activating its main, so again, it's just in here to try to help stop some of the aggression, similarly to what blue hybrids and those store stripping decks kind of want to do anyway, acting as the premier blue control decks. Next, we have a new Tyranomon in the form of X-Tyranomon. So X-Tyranomon is going to be a level 5 purple and green Digimon this time, so Tyrannomon's dipping his feet into purple this time around instead of red, and on top of that he has some pretty solid stats, having a play cost of 7, 3 to evo off of purple or green, and 9000 DP, which isn't too bad, especially since he has the blocker ability to try to help wall out some of the opponent's Digimon. And then he does have a secondary ability that's acting as the drawback for him being such a decent blocker, especially a 2-color Digimon, where during all turns, if this Digimon has no Digivolution sources in it, then it can't attack or block, so you always want to make sure you're going to have some way to have an evolution source underneath him, so he could be as efficient as a blocker as you possibly can, and he is probably going to play nicely with some of the other Tyrannomon-based cards, especially in green. And speaking of Tyrannomons in green, next we have Dark Tyrannomon. So Dark Tyrannomon is going to be a level 4 green and purple card. Same type of deal, it could digivolve off of green and purple, and it has 5000 DP, hard place for 5. And on top of that, he has an inheritable ability that wants to be paired up with X-Tyrannomon, just because he does have blocker, where his inheritable ability states on delete, we get to suspend one of the opponent's Digimon. So if our X-Tyrannomon is able to block with our Dark Tyrannomon underneath him, then we'll be able to reap the benefits of this on delete ability to try to help stop some of the opponent's aggression. Next, we have a new version of Megidramon. So this new version of Megidramon is going to be a solid purple card instead of the 2-color version that we saw all the way back in EX02. And on top of which, his stats aren't anything too special or different from your average level 6, but he also still does count as a chaosgallantmon if you want to try to build him with chaosgallantmon. And on top of that, he is one of the 4 Great Dragons, so he's going to be playing around with that 4 Great Dragon deck that kind of seems to want to be formed around Trials of the 4 Great Dragons with his own on-play ability, where we get to delete one of the opponent's level 5 or less Digimon, and then when this card was played from the card effects of Trials from the 4 Great Dragons, we get to increase the level of that effect by 1, so that way it could delete up to a level 6 Digimon, which is pretty good, and he has a nice on-delete ability that's acting very similar to Azulong, where if we don't have a Trials of the 4 Great Dragons in play, then we get to place one from our hand into the battle area for free, which is always nice because it seems like that deck wants to be centered around that card, and I'm really curious what that card is actually going to do. And then the last card that we got spoiled this week is going to be a new option to go with him in the form of Megiddoflame. So Megiddoflame is another 4-costed purple option with the main ability where we get to delete one of the opponent's level 4 or less Digimon, or we may delete one of our Digimon to delete one of the opponent's level 6 or less Digimon instead. So it's just acting as one of those self-sacrificing cards to be able to delete a wide variety of targets. On top of the fact that we don't necessarily have to delete one of our Digimon in case we don't, so it has that nice flexibility on what we could do with it. Then it has a nice security ability that's more playing into the gallantmon side of things, where you get to place one Guillemon from your trash without paying its play cost, so it's just a good card to act as a nice security threat to spawn an extra body to be able to do various other things with, and I think this is going to be a good card to include in Purple Chaos Gallant and the Megidramon style of deck. But yeah, that's it for the spoilers this week, and even though we didn't get a whole lot of cards, what we did get was pretty exciting, and we already have lots of room to start thinking about new in interesting ways to apply some of these cards, so we could start dipping into purple and Tyranomon if we really wanted to. So now he could extend into technically 3 colors, on top of the fact that we don't know what Trials of the Four Great Dragons is going to do, but it seems like it's going to be a fun and interesting deck that's going to be utilizing a Megazoo style of tactic, and it'll be interesting to see how that actually plays out, on top of more support for existing decks like Machinedramon and justimon. So it's just going to be helping a lot of different decks, and I'm curious to see what the rest of the set is going to have in store. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.